Hello YouTube, I'm Jack Clark, Deacon coming to you with another video. How are you? So, Distilent Enigma did a video on mulliganing, which is a phenomenon found in Magic the Gathering and other various trading card games. However, it is not in Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, I thought I'd throw my hat into the ring because I feel I can add something in addition to this. So I may recap some of the things he said, but mostly I'm going to try and bring something new to the discussion. So, mulliganing. Mulliganing is a phenomenon. Oh, I can't say it. Mulliganing and phenomenon. Basically, it's a concept in Magic the Gathering in which at the beginning of the game you can shuffle in the entirety or some cards in your hand and put them back into the deck to redraw. This is mainly because in Magic the Gathering, you can't just play any card for free. You have to have a cost, and that cost takes the form of land. Now, this is a land card. You can have as many of these in your deck. There is no limit to them. And in a Magic deck, because you're running 60 cards and you need a lot of land to pay for those cards, you can use them as many times you can use them once per turn, and then you can use them again the next turn. However, for you to want to draw these, you'll run around, I guess, 20 plus land. I'm not really a very notorious Magic player, so do forgive me if that is a complete fabrication of the truth. But you have a lot of land to pay for the cards because every Magic card pretty much has a cost, and you use the land for that. However, at the beginning of a Magic game, if you just have all land in your hand, what can you do? Or if you have all creatures or sorcery cards and you have all these spells but you can't actually do anything because you have no land, then you're screwed. That's why the mulliganing system is in Magic, because of course with the inherent disadvantage of land, what are you going to do? This is the same in Pokemon, of course made by the same company, Wizards of the Coast. So if you have just energy cards, what you're going to do, you need a basic Pokemon at the beginning of the game to actually continue. So another game that uses this, of course, is Card Fight Vanguard, which of course has two phenomena in which it uses it. First one is upgrading or grading, or riding the Vanguard, it is also known. So riding, that's peculiar. But with this, basically means you start off with a grade 0 card at the beginning of the game and you upgrade your Vanguard. So it goes from grade 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 and sometimes 4 if you're really crazy. But basically, with that, you have to kind of do that each turn. And if you can't do that each turn, you're at a severe disadvantage from your opponent, who probably will be able to overpower you and you lose. Because in Vanguard, you only need to take 6 damage. Which brings me to the next point, which is a trigger card. Now in Vanguard you also have a phenomenon called trigger cards, and you have to have 16 trigger cards in your Vanguard deck. That is a requirement and you have no choice in that. But these triggers are terrible cards really to use. However, they are very important because they change the tide of the game. So when you attack in Vanguard, or when you take damage in Vanguard, you reveal the top card of your deck, and if it is a trigger, you can apply the appropriate effect. This can range from increasing the power of a given card you have on the field to increasing the damage you deal, or lowering the damage you take, and sometimes drawing more cards, and various other things like that. But these triggers are mandatory and they are very important and do a hell of a lot to the game state. But because they affect the game state so much, inherently you don't want to draw them. You want them in the deck for you to use them later. So of course you have the mulliganing system there, not only to help you with your grade lock situation as you may have it. So if you don't have a grade 0, or no, if you don't have a grade 1, then you're kind of screwed in your opening hand. But if you have like loads and loads of triggers, that's not an optimum way, because you want them in your deck for the probability of you actually able to use their actual effects later on in the game to actually come through. So that's why we have mulliganing in those games. Now Yu-Gi-Oh! Is different because it's a game which actually doesn't require any other cards to make the cards actually work, so to speak. So I say that, but basically, in a Yu-Gi-Oh! Game, if there's nothing saying you can't play the card, in most situations you can play the card. Of course, various cards have various conditions placed upon them, but those are all very situational, unlike Vanguard and Magic, in which there has to be a certain you have to do them in a certain way by inherent mechanics. So like in Magic, of course, you have to use mana, and of course in Vanguard you have to ride a Vanguard each turn potentially, and you can only ride a Vanguard, or you can call it anyway. So like in Yu-Gi-Oh! However, of course, like, yeah, we've got a level 4 monster. You can normal summon that, just play for free. There you go, done. Or with a spell card, unless it has a condition, you can just play for free. Done, sorted. So in Yu-Gi-Oh! This also explains the phenomenon with Yu-Gi-Oh! Where every card these days searches. This is why archetypes are so popular and why they work so much, is because they work together. They are very insular, they work as a unit. Because in Yu-Gi-Oh! You have 40 cards, and since you don't have any inherent card or game mechanics which which mean that you have to use certain kinds of cards. It means that the cards you do have in your deck have to work very well together and mesh together and work and search for each other. Otherwise, the probability of you being able to get the right card you need because you don't have a mulliganing system becomes almost non-existent. So in Yu-Gi-Oh, every card searches for each other. This is why every archetype these days has a Stratos clone, because it's a very easy way of upping the consistency of a deck, whilst of course being able to summon the monster and actually proceed with winning the game and actually going with the win condition of the game, which is to summon monsters to deplete your opponent's life points by X amount to reduce them to 0. That's how Yu-Gi-Oh works, and which is why Yu-Gi-Oh is getting it's unique to Yu-Gi-Oh in which you have to kind of work with probability, but that's kind of the case with all card games really. You have to just work with them with varying degrees, and Yu-Gi-Oh I think is the most popular one worldwide. I'm going to say popular with bunny rabbit ears here, or finger quotes so to speak, because it is the least limiting. You don't have to run X amount of boring land cards or X amount of trigger cards because you have to use them inherently for the game to actually work. You can have just level 4 creatures and be able to summon them and play them. Doesn't mean you'll be able to win, but it means you can do whatever the hell you want, and because you can search for pretty much every card in your deck, it allows you to have a severe more amount of options than at any other time, and a lot of freedom than any other card game that exists. So that's why we don't have mulliganing. It's why Yu-Gi-Oh is also the top game at the moment, because there's no inherent game mechanics, of course, and this is all based on opinion, so to speak. I know Yu-Gi-Oh has some major failings, that of course being the fact that every card bloody well searches for itself to actually be good, whilst actual effects which are unique and interesting don't really work because, well, if they can't search for it, why use it? But my opinion is my opinion, and that's just basically what I wanted to say. So in the comments down below, please tell me what you think about mulliganing. And of course, Yu-Gi-Oh is not going to be without its beginning of the game mechanics now. Of course, in the OCG, you're not going to be able to draw at the beginning of the turn, so this actually may make Yu-Gi-Oh a better game. So we'll see. But if you have an opinion on Magic, Vanguard, or Yu-Gi-Oh in any regards to each other, then do say so in the comments down below. I'd like to hear what you think about it. I've been getting into Magic and Vanguard a lot more so than Yu-Gi-Oh in fact. However, I did win a lot of games with Hunters last locals I went to, which was rather lovely, because I just built the deck. As soon as I got there, I was like, oh crap, I can't play Raccoons randomly, so I'm going to play Hunters, and I got to top 4. Awesome. But yeah, other things aside, that was great. So, like I said, comment down below with your opinions on anything I've said in today's video, but that's pretty much it. I'm Jack Clark, the Yu-Gi-Oh Musketeer. More videos coming out to you soon, but until then, goodbye.